Crete is a huge island, and so deciding where you're staying directly impacts which places you can actually visit and which ones you'll have to miss out on. It's not like Santorini where in half an hour you can be anywhere you want on the island. Crossing Crete from left to right takes like 5 hours, so deciding where exactly you're staying is super crucial. Now, if this is your first time in Crete, in my opinion, there can only be two options: Chania and Heraklion. These are the two largest cities by far on the island, with both an airport and a ferry port each. And there are two reasons why those cities are great for first-timers. First of all, they're beautiful and have lots of old landmarks to discover. And secondly, super important, they are the starting point of tons of day tours around the islands. And Crete is an amazing place for stuff like olive oil tours, wine tours, mountain safaris, hikes, and so on. And so staying in either Chania or Heraklion will give you direct access to all these experiences. Now, which one is the best? Chania or Heraklion? Well, they each have their pros and cons, both on what the actual city has to offer and the day trips you can go on. And that's why I think it's best to stay in both, actually. The sweet spot, in my opinion, is 3 to 4 days in Chania and 2 to 3 days in Heraklion. Now, if you don't have that much time and you're only planning to stay for like 3 days total in Crete, then I would stay in only one of the two, because you lose a lot of time transitioning from one to the other. It takes like 3 hours by bus, so that's basically half a day lost. So if you're staying for at least 5 days, then I would recommend you do both Chania and Heraklion. Less than 5 days, just do one of the two. So let's start with Chania. What is there to do in that part of the island? Well, first of all, Chania's old town is absolutely gorgeous. Most of it was built by the Venetians between the 1200s and the 1600s. In case you've never heard of the Venetians, they were a very rich and powerful nation during the Middle Ages, stretching from the city of Venice all the way to Greece and Cyprus. And that's why the architecture in Crete, and Chania is a great example of that, is very similar to what you would see in Venice, or even Dubrovnik, actually, which is in modern-day Croatia, but it was ruled by the Venetians 800 years ago, and so you will find the same style there as well. And by the way, this Venetian architecture is completely different from the Cycladic style that you'll see in places like Santorini or Mykonos. So if you thought that all Greek islands have these white and blue houses, no, that's only on the Cycladic islands, which are the ones located here close to Athens. So yeah, Chania, really cute town, lots of picturesque narrow alleys, and the old port is the absolute highlight of the city. Look at this wonderful place to go for nice and romantic walks by day or by night. Now, in terms of day trips, starting from Chania, the three most famous ones are the beaches of Elafonisi and Balos and the Samaria hike. Elafonisi is a gorgeous lagoon area with crystal clear waters. Balos is pretty similar, it's also a lagoon, and that tour also stops at the beautiful Gramvousa island before reaching Balos. And then Samaria is this 5-hour hike through the gorgeous national park of the Samaria Gorge, walking along this beautifully preserved canyon. Now, of course, you can also do these 3 tours I just mentioned from Heraklion as well, but it's much longer because the city is on the other side of the island. So ideally, if you do want to go on some of these tours, do it from Chania and not from Heraklion. And then you also have olive oil and wine tours and mountain safaris, which are both amazing tours and absolute must-dos in Crete, in my opinion. But those two you can find in Heraklion as well, so that shouldn't impact where you decide on staying on the island, because they both have it. And by the way, in case you didn't know, I am a full-time tour guide in Athens, so if you want me to show you around our beautiful capital, here is my Instagram page. Alright, let's talk about Heraklion now. The highlights of the old town are the Koules fortress, which you can also enter, by the way. It's a very impressive place. The loggia, with its very characteristic Venetian style once again. The medieval walls, and the Morosini fountain. Apart from that, not a whole lot of old stuff to see in Heraklion because it was bombed by the Germans during World War II. So yeah, even though Heraklion has some old landmarks that survived, Chania is definitely a much more beautiful city, but Heraklion has one massive thing that Chania doesn't have, and that's the archaeological site of Knossos. Knossos was the capital city of the Minoan civilization in 2000 BC. So this is not the same as the Acropolis, for instance. The Acropolis was built by the Greeks in 500 BC. Knossos is from 1500 years before that, and it was not the Greeks, it was the Minoans, which were a completely different civilization than the Greeks. Minoans have gone extinct since then, but at that time they were very wealthy and powerful, much more than the Greeks. And so Knossos is a fascinating archaeological site to visit because all the stories you'll hear are completely different than the ones you hear when you go to the Acropolis, for instance, because it's not the same civilization. And there's also a museum linked to all of this where you can go and see all the artifacts that were found during the excavations in Knossos. And that museum is called the Heraklion Archaeological Museum, and it's located in the city center. I'm working on a video dedicated to Knossos, how to visit it and what guided tour I recommend. Once it's ready, I will put it here. Now, apart from that, so visiting Heraklion's old town plus the archaeological site of Knossos, there are 2 day trips you can also go on from Heraklion that are very nice. If you ask me, it's a little inferior to what the western side of Crete has to offer, like Elafonisi or Balos, but if you're only staying in Heraklion and not in Chania, then these 2 are the 2 best ones. The first one is the day trip to Spinalonga Island, which started off as a Venetian fortress in the 1500s, but became much more infamous later on when it was turned into a leper island where all Greeks infected with leprosy would be sent to basically go and die without infecting other people. So yeah, kind of a sad topic, but super interesting, and the location is really gorgeous despite what happened there, obviously. And the other popular day tour from Heraklion is the sailing trip to Dia Island, which is basically a very chill tour where you go and relax on a boat, do some snorkeling, have dinner on board, and then catch the sunset on the way back. I'm gonna make videos for all these tours, by the way. I'll link them down below as soon as they're online. So yeah, my ideal stay in Crete would be 4 days in Chania, where you do the Elafonisi day trip, Balos day trip, visiting Chania's old town, and then either the Samaria hike or a mountain safari. And then 3 days in Heraklion, where you go on an olive oil and wine tour. This is an absolute must-do no matter what. Knossos and the Archaeological Museum on day 2, and then Heraklion's old town on day 3. Now, everything I mentioned so far in this video is if you want to have a busy and active schedule in Crete. If you don't want that, and you just want to be left alone, relaxing on the beach every day, then I would not stay in Chania or Heraklion. In that case, stay at a beach hotel somewhere on the island. There's hundreds of these hotels, and Crete has fantastic beaches no matter where you are. The 2 things you have to keep in mind is that 1, you'll need a rental car if you do that, because public transport only goes from major city to major city, and probably your hotel is not within that range. And 2, it will be nearly impossible to join any day trip at all, and so that kind of sucks. Alright, and so I'm gonna leave you with these 3 videos: the best hotels in Chania, the best hotels in Heraklion, and the best beach hotels if that's what you want. And there you go, that's it for today. Hope you liked it. See you in the next one. Bye.